Hey everyone, welcome to all our viewers across the world, our World Business Forum audience, and all our Chief Executive Magazine readers. I'm Martin Lindstrom, your co-host, along with my dear friend, the world's #1 leadership coach, Marshall Goldsmith. Now, Marshall is a member of the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame and has written some of the most iconic books out there, including his latest New York Times bestseller, The Earned Life, Lose Regret, and Choose Fulfillment, which is an amazing book, by the way. But beside all those fancy credentials, more important than anything, Marshall is just an amazing human being, and I can say that from the bottom of my heart. Marshall, welcome once again.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Greetings from Dubai, everyone. I am here with my wonderful friend, Martin Lindstrom. Martin is one of the most interesting human beings in the world. He is the #1 expert on branding in the world, has been ranked in Time Magazine as one of the most influential people in the world, is a frequent Thinkers 50 person, has been on that list for years, and also always willing to help people do good deeds. Always willing to help good dudes. And, you know, Martin, I just listened to this incredible keynote you gave on the topic of the metaverse, which was just mind-blowing. So honored to be with you as always.
Thank you. And just so all know, all of you guys watching knows, I paid Marshall for what he said right now. Nothing is true. Well, I'm just kidding, but it's so flattering. Thank you, Marshall, for all your words. By the way, if you have any questions and comments, just post them here or just tell us who you are and where you are. And by the way, if you like this show, don't forget to press the like, the follow, or the subscribe button, which really takes me straight back to that question I was raising on the top of the hour. So what happened with Maersk? What made them change their minds to require upfront payment, and with that, I guess, transforming the whole shipping industry? Well, here's the trick. We use the power of empathy. It's true. By asking the folks at Maersk which company they truly admired, they said to us, we love Uber. They're always on time. They're simple. We love it. And then we asked them to say, well, hey, what if Maersk was buying Uber? Try to simulate that for a second, which they did. 88,000 staff people did that across the world. And they realized that Maersk would basically destroy Uber. That was the eureka moment. And that became the trigger for Maersk to introduce what they today called a loading guarantee. And with that, the share price increased with some 300% over the past 3 years. And that is all about transformation. And I couldn't think about any better guest than our two guests today, which are, in my opinion, the two icons when it comes to running and training and guiding companies through all the mess they're in right now. Marshall, tell me about the first guest.
Well, you know, Gary Hamel is an amazing guy. He is now just in the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame as well. So Gary, it must mean you're getting old like me. So now you're in the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame, which means you must be getting a little older. He's been ranked one of the top business thinkers in the world. He's written 20 Harvard Business Review articles, professor at London Business School, #1 world's expert on strategy. But one thing that's most important about Gary is not just this theoretical stuff. He's actually done this over and over and over again with major corporations. So that's what's most impressive with him. So very honored to be here with Gary Hamel.
Thank you very much for having me today. It's a great pleasure to be with you both.
Honored to have you join us. And the first question I'm going to have is just looking at perspective of what Martin just said. In our new world, what's your #1 insight in terms of transforming corporations in our new world?
That you can't really change anything in a large corporation without redistributing power. That would, for me, is the heart of it. We have organizations that are still structured in that old bureaucratic way where power trickles down, big leaders appoint little leaders, people at the top are expected to set strategy and direction and make choices about allocating resources, and that simply doesn't work. There's no way a multi-layered, centralized organization can succeed in a world of relentless change and uncertainty. And yet, you know, we know that the average large company still has 8 or more levels. And as long as that is true, I don't expect them to be often in front of the curve.
So tell me, Gary, you and I have talked a lot about this. A lot of these companies today are stuck in the past. And it's funny because they don't even want to admit it. Um, how do you change that mindset?
I think it's a very, very, very deep problem, which is why it has persisted for so long. You were the example you were using of Maersk, Martin, was really trying to change the business model, right? That was a business model innovation to change their pricing model. So this is the only time I'll quote myself, because it's not a very pleasant thing to do. But back a long time ago, a quarter century ago, 1998, I wrote the first cover story for Fortune magazine on the internet. And I remember the way I ended that article. I said, the internet is not a new advertising medium. It's not a new distribution channel. It's the foundation for a new industrial order. And at the time I wrote that, Walmart was 250 times as big as Amazon. And today, Amazon is probably 1/7 the size of, Walmart is 1/7 the size of Amazon in e-commerce. And so you go like, okay, so I could see that coming. Nick Negroponte at MIT Media Lab, many people were writing about this, Wired magazine. It wasn't like I had some like crystal ball there, but obviously the ability to intercept the future, to see it and to act on it is very, very difficult for incumbent organizations. And so this is not a new problem, right? Most organizations are not very resilient. When you look at deep change, wherever it happens, when a company really reorients its strategy, it usually happens in crisis, but lately often requires a change in the CEO, which is how change happens in a poorly governed, authoritarian regime. Pressure builds and builds and builds. You finally have a coup. You replace, the leader. Maybe you get somebody who's less despotic than the last one. But it's just a really crappy way to change, where we're always on the back foot, where we're always late. And, if you just take the digital thing as an example, it's very hard for me to think of a single incumbent company that has been really in front of that. Almost all of them have been on the back foot. And it's not because digital is so complicated or unique. It's not. It's because organizations mostly are built to do the same things over and over again. And, and that's, it's control, it's compliance, it's repeatability, it's efficiency, and so on. So when you ask them to start to reimagine themselves on a consistent basis, there's nothing in the way we run organizations that makes that easy or automatic. So this is, I think, a fundamental, you look at, for example, through the recent COVID crisis, and just the systematic failure of large institutions in the public and private sector to respond very quickly. And thankfully, you had networks of doctors, practitioners, and so on who were forming spontaneously, sharing clinical information, trying to figure out what to do. But if you'd waited in the US for CDC or NIH, or you'd waited somewhere else, like that was a long wait. There was an Italian physician early on who said, the virus moves faster than our bureaucracy. And I wanted to, so does everything else, by the way. So I think, we're at one of those points in history where the world change is happening much quicker. A lot of it is driven by technology, and the pace of organizational innovation is just lagged way behind the pace of change in the world at large. That's something we have to fix. Happy to throw a few ideas on how to do that, but you first have to recognize we're trying to do something really difficult that is just almost in the DNA of most organizations. So like some quick fit of like, yeah, let's do a digital transformation project. Let's put in some agile teams. Those things are not sufficient to address this challenge.